Hey, it's Dr. Jade, Teta, and welcome to Metabolic Living's Immunity Upgrade Blueprint. Today we're going to be covering how some foods make us eat more of the wrong things more often. We call these trigger foods, and there are certain foods that may hurt us even if you think they're good for you. Now remember, the best defense is a strong immune system, and you get a strong immune system when you develop a strong, resilient metabolism. The metabolism is like the Energizer Bunny battery for the immune system, helping it fuel the immune system so it can do its job fighting microbes like bacteria and viruses. Let's get started with the lecture. Today we're going to be talking about the idea of trigger foods. Cravings oftentimes are triggered by certain foods that we ate or did not eat. And we need to be aware of this. Not always, but oftentimes. So there's this concept we have of buffer and trigger foods here at Metabolic Living. A buffer food is a food that when you eat it, it helps you eat better. A trigger food is a food that when you eat it, it helps you or makes you eat worse. So trigger foods are foods that make you eat more at the current meal, eat more at future meals, and crave more trigger foods at all meals. These are foods you want to avoid. Now, typically, trigger foods have a very particular sort of combination. They typically tend to be foods rich in starch, sugar, fat, alcohol, or salt, highly palatable or highly hedonistic foods. And when you eat these foods, they make you crave more of these kinds of foods, creating this never-ending cycle of food triggers and high-calorie, palatable food intake. Now, one of the things that we also want to realize with trigger foods is that some foods, even though they may appear healthy or we think they're healthy, we've heard they're healthy, can be trigger foods. As an example, let's say you decide at lunch you're going to have a small salad. You've decided you're going to eat well and you think it's healthier for your immune system. But every time you have a salad at lunch, you end up craving junk food because that salad did not keep your hunger and your energy and your cravings in check. As a matter of fact, it threw your HEC, hunger, energy, and cravings, out of check, causing you to binge on the wrong things later. So even healthy foods can act as triggers if we're not careful. So there's two types of trigger foods. One, these unhealthy foods rich in salt and sugar and starch and fat and alcohol that can trigger you to eat more foods like that. There are also trigger foods that can be super healthy but don't satisfy and satiate you enough and then trigger you to overeat later. I'm sure you know people or you yourself have suffered from one or the other. Another common trigger is just eating in general. This is why some people, not all, but some people actually don't like to eat until later in the day, because once they start eating, even eating alone can begin to trigger some cravings. And so the idea is, what are your triggers around food? Does eating in general stimulate you to start eating more? Does eating super healthy foods and not attending to satisfaction cause you to eat worse and more later? And does eating these common trigger foods rich in salt, sugar, fat, starch, and alcohol also cause you to eat more of the wrong things later? This is an important concept. The key takeaways here with trigger foods is that these foods make you eat more of the wrong things more often, and they often combine hedonistic elements like fat, sugar, salt, and alcohol. But even some healthy foods can end up being triggers, and the idea is we want to avoid trigger foods as much as possible. So your homework after listening to this lecture is to write down all of your trigger foods. And if these trigger foods are healthy foods, think about how you can make them better and more satisfying and satiating so they don't trigger overeating later. Okay, thanks for watching today's episode. It's still time to join and access all the material for the challenge. Just go over to metabolicliving.com where you'll find immune strengthening workouts, meal plans, and recipes. No matter your nutritional lifestyle choice, we've got you covered. Paleo, keto, vegan, vegetarian people, we've got programs for you there. If you've enjoyed this lecture, please share it with as many people as you can. Friends and family may benefit. Don't forget to follow us at Metabolic Living on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. And remember, we're all in this together. It's about boosting the metabolism, strengthening the immune system, and flattening the curve together. Thanks for being here for this lecture, and we will see you at the next session.